Hello everybody, let's get started. In today's video I wanna recap a few things coming up in the live stream yesterday. The points I wanna cover: who owns Ripple, growth of the internet, transaction cost or burn rate, about ledgers, and then something to think about. Let's start with who owns Ripple. According to Wikipedia, there have been about 6 series of funding, and I put the link from Wikipedia into the PDF in the description. You can see when and how much in each funding series basically was given to Ripple between 2013 and 2016. Then the growth of the internet. I have been doing again some research, and the growth between 1995 and 2000 has been quite exponential, and I'm actually expecting the same thing to happen with ILP. And the reason is, on the birth of the internet, basically the hardware infrastructure wasn't available yet. However, today the hardware infrastructure is there. It's really just a software upgrade, and it's not that of a complicated software upgrade after all. Okay, now there has been some comments yesterday in the live stream regarding burn rate or transaction cost, and I told you that I would dig a bit deeper, and maybe there is, from some more knowledgeable guys than me, some correction on that, but basically it works like that. Every transaction has a transaction cost or burn rate. There are different transaction types and all have different burn rates. That also depends on the multi-signature feature. That usually increases the transaction cost on a transaction. It's possible for the network to approve and agree on new, higher or lower transaction costs via the consensus process. I believe it's not reliable to deduct any conclusion on changing burn rate costs, as it would require much deeper analysis why that change occurred and on what transactions it occurred. Now, something to clear some confusion about ledgers. First, we need to understand what a ledger is. It is basically a way to account or track balances. In the old day, it was a simple book. That is why still today it is called bookkeeping. Now I want to look at 2 sub-points: centralized versus decentralized, and public versus private. A system which is centralized is running on one system only, not counting the redundancy systems for failover possibility. Your bank account is being taken care of on one system only. You have to trust your bank to do the proper bookkeeping on incoming and outgoing money for you. A system which is decentralized is running on multiple systems in parallel. When the internet was not that fast as it is today, those parallel systems would each update each other in intervals. They would replicate their data to the other systems, let's say every 5 or 10 minutes or every hour, so that all systems were in sync. Today, however, with fast internet, blockchain or distributed ledger technology makes it possible to sync those systems across the globe in real time. Then let's move on to the difference between public versus private. A public ledger is a ledger anyone can go and see what's in there. Think of it as the book of your school. You can go and check even 30 years after you have graduated who was in your class at that time. In this example, the book does not track money or value, but it tracks members of a particular school or class. A private ledger, however, can only be seen by the ones who operate or own it. You do not know how much money your neighbor has in his bank account. Only his bank account manager, besides himself, knows the balance of his account. Distributed ledger technology or blockchain can be both public or private. That depends totally on the use case. All cryptos or digital assets you can buy on an exchange, such as Bitstamp or Binance or whatever, are on a public ledger. You can write code, a program to analyze and create statistics upon the ledger, the data on the ledger. Have a look at Ledger Exposed. I put a link into the PDF. But now imagine the same were true for DLT, which tracks your educational records or your health records. Would you want your neighbor to know that you dropped out of high school? Or would you want your neighbor to know you suffer diabetes? So in these cases, only the required people and only upon approval from you or from a doctor or so can view the data on the ledger. That's why these sorts of ledgers are private or semi-private. Another example could be some whistleblowing application within a global company. If you enter anonymously some info regarding an unsatisfying situation in your company, you only want the managers to see it. Neither your co-workers and definitely not people not employed by the company should see what you entered in such a system. And now something to think about regarding some people not believing that the price surge will happen this year. And this section is actually about profitability on investment, on projects or infrastructure. And I don't want to go too much into details. I listed 3 methods: return on investment, payback period, and net present value. Whatever calculation you apply, the payback period is usually between 2 and 6 years. But some of those customers from Ripple already started in 2016, definitely 2017. So if they still today cannot make a profit, they basically lost 3 years out of those 2 to 6 years they could make a profit. And that's simply unacceptable. No one would invest into a project knowing there will be return on your investment only in 3 years time from the future. And then it'll take another 6 years until basically your initial investment would be covered. That's totally a no-go. Okay, have a look at yourself at the section in the PDF. And then something I want to remind you again is basically Ripple's vision, Internet of Value. Please read the PDF I put into the last section of the PDF in the description, which is about Ripple's vision. It's a bit an older document, but because the vision of the company is long term, it still holds. So they are targeting the Internet of Value. Then last, I think it was autumn, around October or November, I think it was shortly after Swell, or maybe even during Swell, there was an article being published that we are close to the tipping point of mass adoption of DLT blockchain, and this should also give you serious thinking. I mean, that's about 8 months past now, so we're way in the future compared to that article. So you can imagine how much progress has been done in these 8 months. And another interesting thing some people do not realize, and I want to recap, that Ripple has been working together with central banks for years already. I have put a link for about a document on the Ripple website where they had a summit, a central bank summit, I think it was 2017, with about 2,000 central banks. And this is something to think about, that they're really working hard in that area. And I will also put a link to a video with Dilip Rao where he basically talks about that very same thing. With that, I wish you a good end of the week. See you next Tuesday at 8:20 hours Central European Time in my live stream.